Many Magic players have really started to notice just how well Tarkir Dragonstorm fits into so many different formats. And that means in today's video, we've got to look at 5 cards that you should be paying attention to for Tarkir Dragonstorm. Tarkir Dragonstorm is going to have some underdogs. It's going to have some cards that most players don't see value in, but later on those cards are going to probably be worth a lot more money, and this is your chance to maybe get some of these cards before they go that way. Am I going to be right? Am I going to be wrong? Well, these are 5 cards I think you should be watching. Welcome back, everyone. MTG Moxman here, and thank you again for hanging out with me today for another video. And I'm serious, Tarkir Dragonstorm just has so many cards that seem pretty decent that it seems like we may have a larger majority of underrated cards that are going to spike up later on. Remember, this is a new turning point. We were going to have a large segment of Magic get rotated out finally and a whole bunch of new sets coming in, which means a lot of the connections and synergy have not happened yet. Now that could be from Standard, but it could also be amazing cards coming into Commander, and some of these cards we've seen in Tarkir Dragonstorm have already started to show up. Are they going to go higher though? Are these prices going to shoot up and you may have that regret later on? That's what I'm trying to avoid. That's why I'm going to mention some of these cards and we're going to take a look. So let's take a look at the first card here. Now, the first card that we are going to talk about is Ugin Eye of Storms. Tarkir Dragonstorm, amazing. Average price right now, $49.99, and still trending down. This card has lost almost 50% of its value since the pre-order season. Now, when we take a closer look at the card, how good or how bad is Ugin Eye of Storms? Now, I love the card. You could say I'm biased toward it because I just think it's awesome. But when we look at Ugin Eye of Storms, the 7 casting cost generic means he can fit into a lot of commander decks. He's going to see some standard play. He already is. Now, he has a 7 loyalty base. When he comes in though, this is what makes him pretty awesome, is when you cast this spell, exile up to 1 target permanent that's 1 or more colors. Whenever you cast a colorless spell, exile up to 1 target permanent that's 1 or more colors. Okay, so obviously in Commander this is going to be a big thing. You're going to see this thing in all kinds of Eldrazi, Tron, and it's going to keep having a certain baseline value. But as we see this card trending down, and if this thing gets into the mid to high 30s, this thing's going to be a steal of a deal, because when it rotates, when people's minds switch off and the price starts to trend up, or if we see less Tarkir Dragonstorm being opened, well, that means this price is going to go up because the supply will be lower, but the demand should remain pretty constant. Now, the gaining 3 life is nice. The drawing a card for +2 is amazing. The -11 is just breathtaking, and that 0 ability to add 3 mana means you can even pop out other colorless spells after he comes out, triggering his effect to go off again. This is a card you should not underestimate, even though the price tag is trending down. That doesn't mean he's not popular, it just means players aren't buying this thing for $100, are they? But is the price tag going to be 30, 40, 50 bucks? Are we going to see this thing keep falling? Yes, right now it's going to fall. The trend is still falling. Although there's not tons of supply coming online at stores, you are going to see this thing continue downward trending. And that means if it hits into the 30s, I consider this thing a buy. Now the next card, and a card I already have shared with you guys, is the Sun Pearl Kirin. This thing's at 30 cents. Buying 10 copies for $3 seems like a steal of a deal right now, considering what this card can do. When we take a closer look at the Kirin, let's not forget this is only a 2 casting cost, 2/1 with flash and flying. But when it enters, return up to 1 other target non-land permanent you control to its owner's hand. Yes, you've got to save some white mana in a defensive way to maybe possibly unsummon an Elspeth Stormslayer when somebody's trying to kill you. The other times you can unsummon other planeswalkers, triggering effects on artifacts. You can do crazy stuff, even unsummoning Ugin if you had to. So in a standard deck, this makes a lot of sense. You can also use it in an offensive way when you want to make people, I guess in that there's this one card that makes you discard a card when it comes into play. You can unsummon that enchantment and recast it over and over again with this guy in the Pixie. It's a lot of fun to have these things go off and basically wipe out your opponent's hand by recasting these things over and over and over again. Fantastic times to be had. Just immobilizing somebody's deck. That's in an offensive defensive fashion, but for 30 cents you're telling me you can't find uses for this thing? My real concern about a card like this is we've seen too many uncommons shoot to the $5, $6, $7 level, which means if this card somehow comes along with something either from Final Fantasy, Spider-Man, or we see something from Edge of Eternities that really causes this card to synergize, or even into the new year, seeing this card spike up to $5-6 would be an insane thing to not have taken advantage of, okay? So I'm looking at it from a defensive posture, saying if you don't own at least 4, get it out of the way for $1.50. Just do it. Call it a day. You've saved yourself time and money, and if it does spike, you'll look like a champion. And if you don't, it's still a great card to have in a deck. Now, the next card I want to discuss is Infantry Shield from Commander Tarkir Dragonstorm. This thing was at a $50 pre-order because of all those Commander decks it was in, and now it's a couple of bucks, okay? This is under $10, but it is starting to gain attraction again. Let's not forget that we have Marvel coming up. We saw the Captain America card, and we look at how these things are going to be utilized going forward. To think that this card is not going to find a home in a Commander equipment deck, either using low casting cost creatures to equip to this thing that you can ramp up with its power, because when you look closer at the card, 1 red means it fits into all kinds of different decks. 2 other means it's a low casting cost. Equipped creature has Menace and Mobilize X, where X is its power. You can jack this thing up, attack with it, maybe it hits for 10, and then you get 10 mobilized guys attacking as well. And equip cost of 2, putting this on something like Brunar Battlehammer or something, I just look at this card and say it is a steal of a deal, anything under $10, and it still is. So at least owning 1 for a Commander deck means you're saving time, because as we see Tarkir move along and no more Commander decks get opened, this thing's supply is going to dwindle, but the demand, I think, again, is going to stay pretty consistent. I don't want anybody missing out on cards like this just because they think, it's in a Commander deck, I can buy it later. We saw what happened with the Master Multiplied inside of the Doctor Who series. This is one of those pieces of equipment, though, that I think, because it's a single red plus 2 other, it gets splashed into all kinds of equipment decks. I would keep an eye on it. Now, the next card. This is Meringue the River Regent. I've seen this card played enough times now to realize that this thing can mess you up. And the fact I've also seen it in Commander means that it's something not to ignore. Now, of course, it was at a $7-8 level. It's sunk down, but now that it's seen some play and people have tried it out a few times, it's got some interesting effects to pay attention to. Yeah, it's a 6 casting cost. It is a 6-7 though. It's a bit of a beast. It's got some muscle behind it. Now, it's got the Coil and Catch. That's the Omen ability, which means after you've used it, you shuffle it back into its library. And the Omen ability is not bad unto itself because it's at instant speed, 1 blue, 3 other, and you get to draw 3 and then discard 1. That is not bad if you want to ditch a card from your hand and get some fresh cards in your hand, and you're going to shuffle that card back in. You're not losing the later effect, and the later effect is just as good. Flying. When this creature enters, return up to 2 other target permanent non-land permanents, right? So it's got to be a permanent card, but non-land. So think about things you can unsummon from your own to re-trigger, or of course you can unsummon opponents to get things out of your way before you finish somebody off. Guys, these things are insane, and you can cheat these things onto the battlefield. Don't forget, there are lots of ways of making dragons work. There's a lot of ways to put a card like this to work in your deck, and that's something you shouldn't underestimate. For under $3, it's still losing value. It's really cheap right now. Don't miss out on cards like this because later on, you don't know where they're going to go. Now, the next card. This is Tursa the Lightbringer. I have played against this. This thing has wrecked me on numerous occasions. Let's take a closer look because this thing here right now, it started like the $15 range and now it's all the way down to like $3.64. I love when pre-order season is done. People actually play with this stuff. But now that it's starting to see play, it's starting to trend back up. 1 red, 2 other for a 3/3 with haste. Orc Wizard, okay? It says, when Tursa Lightbringer enters, discard up to 2 cards and then draw that many cards. So in a mono red, thing inside of standard makes sense. But also, because it's an orc, it's not a goblin, unfortunately, but you can still fit this into a whole bunch of commander decks. They let you draw some extra cards. It's pretty nice. Ditching things you don't care or purposely putting cards in your graveyard is another bonus. When Tursa Lightbringer attacks, if there are 7 or more cards in your graveyard, exile a card at random from your graveyard. You may play that card this turn. Now, the discarding effect, by the way, don't forget things like Monument of Endurance. Don't forget cards that already exist in Standard. Having 3 of this legendary orc, 4 of the legendary orc, 4 of the Monument of Endurance, all kinds of other discard and draw thing, it can be insane, okay? You can pick your opponent up because, again, 3 casting costs for a 3/3 means these are cards you really can't ignore. So let's take a look and let's finish this off. I think the one unique thing we need to consider when looking at Tarkir Dragonstorm over other sets we've recently had is that Tarkir Dragonstorm has a lot of boxes being opened. We have a lot of supply entering the market, but we also have to consider that as a new set like Final Fantasy comes barreling down, we are going to see money diverted that way. And even though we've had so many boxes opened for Tarkir Dragonstorm, the supply demand is going to win out, which means sooner or later the money moves on. The supply is going to dry up, but the demand is likely going to stay there for a set like this. Pay attention to the singles, go after the ones you think are worth your time, and I hope this video helped you make some of those decisions or maybe shed light on cards you haven't considered. Thanks again for hanging out with the Moxman today. I hope you found the video fun and informative, and drop some comments in the comments section if you think I missed a few cards. Looking forward to seeing those comments, and I'll talk to you guys tomorrow, and we'll see you then with another video. Oh guys, we made it to the end. Thanks again for being here. Now if you're a patron of mine, thanks again for being a patron. Are you a YouTube membership member supporting my channel? Thanks again for that support. It's because of those people out there that we are able to make this daily uploaded content. It keeps the lights on, it keeps things moving, and allows for time for research, development, editing. And do I do editing? Kind of do editing. Anyway, thanks again for all the patrons. Thanks again for supporting, and I'll see you guys tomorrow with another video if I don't mess it up. Hey guys, welcome back to the Ramble Jamble. G.I. Joe. Okay, hold on. G.I. Joe. Thundercats. Centurions. Mask. Care Bears. Gummy Bears? My Pet Monster? No? Some of these should be ringing about. Fraggle Rock. Smurfs? I know I'm doing the 80s run right now. It's okay. I still remember those cartoons so well. Okay, you're here at the Ramble Jamble. You've made it to the end. Congratulations. I gotta say, Gem and the Holograms. You remember Gem and the Holograms? Josie and the Pussycats. They even did a movie about it. Rachel Leigh Cook, I think. I know, she was pretty. She's all that. I went and saw it with my wife at the time. Yeah, it was like a teeny bopper flick. I remember that. I'm off topic today. It doesn't matter. This is the Ramble Jamble. This is the way we roll sometimes. Pretty fascinating stuff out there. Tarkir is, I don't know, I got all this stuff in my head, guys. I really want a G.I. Joe secret lair. They give us all these cool G.I. Joe toys, but you can't do a G.I. Joe centered set of some type for Universes Beyond or a secret lair? Give me Snake Eyes? So disappointing. This Ramble Jamble's done. I can't help myself. Yo, Joe.